Bali. It's an honor and privilege to have him with us. So I hope you will be learning something extra, something out of your box, out of your syllabus. And this type of master classes will enhance your knowledge, your creativity, and definitely it will increase your own performance as well in the near future. So chef, what we are preparing today?
So we are making lobster thermidor, but we are doing prawn thermidor today.
Okay, perfect. Great. So please continue, sir.
Great.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you. So I hope students will enjoy the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And so normally this dish is presented with lobster, right? But since we have prawns today, it's okay, we can do a prawn thermidor. But anybody knows what is the thermidor preparation?
Thermidor basically is a preparation, French preparation.
French.
Yeah, we make special sauce.
Okay.
We marry the lobster.
Right. Okay, very good. But somewhere ये bechamel sauce है ना, this is a very Google thing. Traditionally, that there are a lot of Google recipes will tell you about a bechamel sauce, but traditionally a lobster does not use bechamel sauce. Okay, good. So lobster क्या है? It's a crustacean. Okay, so it's a shellfish. Any fish that has shells on top is called the shellfish. Okay, shellfish का classification पता है? किसमें classify होता है shellfish? Two parts. Very good. Oh, good. आपको lobsters की एक unique चीज़ पता है? कि they are predators in nature. Predators means they eat each other. और lobster जो होता है ना, that's why hides behind rocks. So lobster is not something that you will find in the very shallow waters. It is present in the waters which has rocky beds where they hide each other because the lobster sheds its skin. When it sheds its skin, it is soft and pulpy and it sends signals and smell to the other lobsters that the other lobsters go out and search and kill each other and eat. So they have to hide behind a rock and it takes 2 to 3 days time for the lobster shell to come. It's called molting, right? So they mold their shell off. So it's one of the things which is got gifted by nature to a lobster. Then when its shell becomes really old, tough, it hampers its movement, it sheds the shell and grows on the new one and his life becomes even more. So जो lobster होता है ना, वो अलग-अलग रंगों में पाया जाता है. Very different colors. Sometimes you see normally a lobster which looks greenish color with blue or white or black lines on top, right? But that is typical of a shellfish that it is actually made up of 2 pigments. There is something called as astaxanthin, okay. Now, and other pigment. So why does the lobster change its color when in the heat? What happens? Have you seen the lobster go? Prawn goes into the heat, it turns orangish in color. Why? Okay. Is it really because of astaxanthin or something? Okay, there are 2 types of pigments present in the lobster. One is called crustacyanin and one is astaxanthin. Both are already present there. But what astaxanthin does is, it's dominant, but it's hidden. A crustacyanin, it inverts the structure. Astaxanthin is already present there. But because of the crustacyanin, the texture of the protein is inverted and twisted. So as a result, you can see the lobster of a different color. So in reality, the lobster is red in color. But the lobster appears green because the astaxanthin is down below and the crustacyanin is inverted. So the lobster color that you see is different color, like blue, green, yellow, or even black, blue, all that. But when the heat touches that, the crustacyanin protein is broken down and it gets inverted in such a way that the astaxanthin surface is on top. So because of that, the lobster changes its color. Okay? So this is one of the things. So what we'll do is, since we have prawns, we will take prawns and make our lobster prawn thermidor, we can call it. So let's treat this as lobster. So this is called the tail. This entire thing, just not this, but this entire thing is called the tail. Okay? And this is the head. In this head rests a yellow kind of a pigment which is called tamale. Tamale is lobster butter. So classically क्या करते हैं कि उसको split करके ना lobster butter को निकाल के Mixed with egg yolk, you make like a mayonnaise. And that is filled in the cavity and then Parmesan cheese on top and gratinated. That's very classical of this thing. But for now what we'll do is we'll split open the shell because we are going to serve the meat into the shell. So first of all we'll for example. So this one we are not going to use anyway, so we'll discard for now. But that's more prominent yellow in color in a lobster shell. Yeah, I don't mind at all. Always remove this intestines of prawns because they can cause really food poisoning. Okay, so you'll see a black kind of a thing here. This must always be removed. Yeah, that's the tamale. How many of you are vegetarian? With one of the prawns, I'll also show you how some other people also cut the lobster for the lobster thermidor. Let's take these intestines out please first. And the other part I'll show you where people even just split this up. lobster into small pieces. So sometimes it's very important that sometimes the seafood that is there now sometimes could be very slimy. So wash, clean your hands and try and not use the gloves when you're cutting seafood or something, because sometimes the hands can slip. And also the wearing of gloves, if your hands are neat and clean, then no problem. But otherwise you should not use gloves when you're cooking something hot, because this can really, especially in the flame, it can become a problem. We are going to marinate this prawn. A very old dish, by the way, lobster thermidor. When I was training in Oberoi, there used to be a restaurant called La Rochelle. La Rochelle में dish तब serve होती थी. But a good lobster thermidor, you know, is always a big lobster. So the plate looks huge. So the इतना बड़ा lobster on a big plate, it looks very big. तो कितने तरह के lobsters होते हैं? Do we get lobster in India? So what we get in India is actually called the crayfish. It is not a lobster. The lobster is like, it's called homard in French. So lobster has got the claws. ये वाले जो lobsters आते हैं ना, तो हमारे इंडिया में, those are called crayfish. They do not have claws, but they are called lobsters. Where does the best lobster come from? Which part of the world? Which place is famous for its lobsters? So Sydney is one. Sydney rock oysters, they are commonly known as. And one place in New York called the Mines. So Mines lobsters are also very amazing.
Langoustine counts as a lobster.
Which one?
Langoustine.
Langoustine is crayfish. So जिसको हम lobster बोलते हैं, that actually is langoustine. In French, langoustine, and English, crayfish. It's also called écrivisse in French. Okay. So now we marinate this. So we take the lobster meat and then we take okay. You keep telling me what do I have to marinate with. पढ़ के यहाँ से marinate the lobster with salt, okay, salt, little bit of salt, okay, pepper, good, then Dijon, okay, where does Dijon, what is Dijon mustard?
It comes from the Dijon region of France.
Dijon region of France, okay, we have spoon of as Worcestershire sauce, but it's spelled as Worcestershire. Do you know the story of Worcester sauce? What is so special about this sauce? Is it vegetarian sauce, non-vegetarian sauce? Vegetarian sauce है. इसका bottle है क्या? Worcestershire sauce का. Okay. Worcestershire sauce. और क्या डालना है?
Cayenne pepper,
Okay. Some bit of cayenne pepper.
lime juice.
Okay, I can use paprika also. Doesn't matter. A little bit of cayenne pepper and lime juice. बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं, because it will harden the protein. Now we marinate this and keep. So marinated and kept. The prawns are boiling, and what we'll also do is we will kind of blanch our asparagus. Chicken. So blanching of asparagus, I will take asparagus. Since we are using this for a non-veg dish, it's fine. I can just put it same here only. But otherwise, I will always do it in another pot. They have a different color altogether. The lobster kind of gives you a very, very different color. Bright red in color. Okay, blanching is never complete without refreshing. Refreshing means this, that from a boiling water into ice cold water. So blanching, the word comes from the French word blanchir. Blanchir means to whiten or to brighten, right? So anything that we put, there are pigments inside. For example, chlorophyll. Now chlorophyll on reaction of the heat, any vegetable, the pigment will turn darker in color. So when we blanch something, we have to now, when the pigment starts to become dark in color, we have to arrest the cooking. So the moment you ice cold water में shock करते हैं, so it immediately brightens. And this is, blanching is done for various reasons. One of the thing is color, enhancing color. But what are the other reasons why do we blanch in kitchen? और क्या क्या reason हो सकता है बताओ? हाँ? To stop the cooking. To? Stop the cooking. Why do we blanch? One is to brighten the color. We all know that, right? What are the other reasons? How? On what reason? Why should we do that?
Because it's after the vegetables and everything that we blanch.
Okay. So that we can also cook now in butter or something. We can just cook it straight away. But why do we blanch? बहुत सारे reasons हैं why do we blanch.
After the thing,
For what reason?
for like if I'm something like cooking something, after like so that we can at the time of service we can disturb the service.
Okay, partly right I would say. Partly right. And I'll tell you why you're partly right. So, one of the reason is, let's say the beans or asparagus. अगर मैं asparagus को straight away if I freeze it, what will happen to it? When I pull it out of the fridge. Have you seen a vegetable like beans which goes straight into the freezer? And if I take it out, what happens to the vegetable? It releases water and it becomes limp. But if you blanch and freeze, then you can keep it for 6 months, no problem. So you blanch for preservation. That blanching a fresh vegetable, blanching will also become a preservation because you blanch a vegetable, you'll shock it, then you will individually pack as per the things that you want and you freeze them. It will last you 6 months, no problem. ठीक है? You blanch tomatoes to remove the skin. So that's the blanching process to remove the skin. You blanch nuts to remove the skin. So blanching is also used for removal of the skin, hard skin from the things.
Reduce bitterness of lime juice.
Yes, to reduce excess flavors like lime juice and also bacon, ham, which are salty in nature. You blanch them to remove the excess salt. So blanching has many uses. You blanch a meat also before cooking. In some of the French stews, you blanch the meat, and when you cook that, your stews are much more clearer and not cloudy. You blanch the bones to make stock. Remember? And you make the stocks. Yeah, so all that. All right. So हमारा ये pre-prep ready है, and now we'll start with the cooking part. So I'll teach you one more trick. On induction, you can actually keep a cook, and this will not burn. But don't use it on a Don't use it on an electrical grill, because there are some electrical hot plates. तो उसमें वो जल जाएगा. क्योंकि हम इंडियन शेफ्स को ना बहुत सारी या सब शेफ्स को आदत होती है पैन गलाते रहने की. So if you want to preserve the glass top, you put a little bit of paper. Nothing will happen to the paper, but your pan will still heat. So that's one trick for you. So इसको भी हम on करते हैं. Now tell me the process. आगे क्या लिखा है, क्या करना है. Now we'll prepare the thermidor sauce. So क्या करना है, बटर. अब ये देखो, ये है उष्णशाही सॉस की बॉटल. ठीक है, इसमें क्या डॉट नजर आ रहा है. तो नॉन वेज है. किसने वेजिटेरियन बोला. This is very important for you to understand. It's non-veg because if you read the ingredient, it has anchovies. So before you start putting any ingredient thinking it's a vegetarian, there's a Caesar salad ki dressing mein, a lot of people do that. So it's a non-vegetarian then. So always read labels. Okay, butter डाला. फिर क्या किया हमने? Okay, और spread the onion. Good. So recipe says onion, but classically it is shallots. Why did I mix olive oil and butter together? Now I'll add some garlic. So garlic and butter are a marriage made in heaven for shellfish. They're very popular across the world. Garlic pepper prawns, garlic pepper crabs. Okay? So without coloring, then now add the mushrooms. High heat, otherwise they will leave out their moisture, cause the flavor loss. Now, salt. Salt, थोड़ा मशरूम पकने के बाद, if you put it पहले, then it will release more moisture. Now lower the heat. We add the lobster. I'm layering salt in layers. Salt for the lobster. Now I add some white wine. I heat. So of course, if it was done on the flame, you will see that flambe. But इसमें flambe होगा नहीं. Because it's induction. But we'll still flambe because we have to flame the brandy. So use that. Classically, if it's a French dish, people use cognac. Now we add the cream. Salt for the cream I've added. So I don't add my salt all together. I always layer it. Now some parsley. See, that's my lobster thermidor. See, already thick, and the thickening comes from the cream. वो उस पे गूगल पे थोड़ा बताते हैं बेशमेल एंड ऑल दैट आगे क्रीम कम हो जाए बट French people love. We can have a plate. So let's present this. So ideally a big lobster shell. Take some Parmesan. Now Parmesan is very Italian. That's why French में people normally use Gruyere. Gruyere is very similar to Parmesan. And now this goes under a salamander. But since we have new technology, we can use this. So just gratinate. Saute this in butter. What flour is this? अरे यार नाम तो होगा ना. That is the thing. You as chefs need to know what you're putting on your plate. क्या food है ये? Called dianthus. And you need to tell your stewards also this, because the guest is going to ask what microgreen, okay, what flour, name of the flour. Okay. So that's a lobster thermidor. So simple things. Your plate should not look very complicated, right? Very, very simplistic. Now we have some more lobster. We have this. Some of you want to present. You're more than welcome to come and present your own versions. Come get few plates. Few people come and present how you like. Now, किसी को present करना है? Take a plate. Do your lobster thermidor. You have that last shells. Not because I made it, but I consider this plate like a clean plate. Right? Having color contrast, having that height, having the textures, that is more important. Do not go more than 3 to 4 elements, max 3 elements on a plate. Here the elements are asparagus, the prawn, and maybe the microgreen. That's it. The sauce itself is the sauce coming from the thing. At the most, you can do a potato preparation like a like coffee noir or a nice mash. And not maybe on the plate, and some of mash along with the side. Maybe a crusty bread, buttered crusty bread on the side. So clean meat, that's how classically a thermidor is served. बहुत बार होता है ना, chefs always think कि plate में जितना मिल रहा है उसको भरो, कुछ करो. Make it convenient for the server to take this plate to the guest. That's important. कितनी बार हम वो cuisine को ऐसा बनाते हैं ना plate को कि वो server घबराता है उसके साथ. तो जैसे निकलेगा वो गिर जाएगा. फिर शेफ से भी डांट पड़ेगी, लोग चिल्लाएंगे. बट शेफ्स हैव टू रियलाइज दैट यू हैव टू मेक द फूड सर्विस फ्रेंडली, एंड सर्विस शुड बी एबल टू कैरी टू द गेस्ट, एंड देन सेकंड गेस्ट फ्रेंडली. एंड हाउ इज द गेस्ट गोइंग टू ईट? अगर आप इतना तामझाम लगाओगे तो सबसे पहले गेस्ट अपने नाइफ और फोर्क से वो चीज़ें सब डिसेंबल करेगा. देन स्टार्ट ईटिंग. सो व्हाट इज द पॉइंट? द गेस्ट ओनली गेट्स इरिटेटेड. शेफ्स को लगता है हमने क्या मस्त प्रेजेंटेशन ला के भेजी. बट फॉर गेस्ट इनकन्वीनियंस, इफ ही डजंट एंजॉय ईटिंग इट, then all your effort is wasted. So always think from the guest perspective.